Right, Casey, we ready to get started?
We are indeed, yes.
You want to kick us off?
Let's do it. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the webinar that we have put together for you today with Promethium, Starburst, and Looker to talk about AI-driven data ops. And we're going to talk about a number of topics, but mainly the bottom line is how we can use AI to make the data ops process a lot faster, a lot smoother, and how the combination of Promethium, Starburst, and Looker gives a winning end-to-end solution. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll start it off with a presentation, which will talk about the different components and how they integrate together. And then we're going to talk about use cases that we have and then kick it off with a demo at the end. So please let us go ahead and get started here. Give me 1 minute here. Oops. Make sure I get it. Great. So this is the agenda we have. So we're going to introduce the speakers a little bit, and then we'll talk about the specific problems that we believe everyone faces in a lot of organizations. We've got specific use cases that we have we'll talk about, but why the combination of Promethium, Starburst, and Looker enables you to solve these problems end to end in record time without all the complexity and the hassles that currently is experienced with data management and analytics today. And we will then show the integrated demo between the three solutions led by our great friends at Launch Consulting with Nate McQueen. So the speakers today are myself, Casey Lai. I'm the CEO and founder of Promethium. Shohei Naron, the technology partner manager at Looker, and Nate McQueen, the Chief Technology Officer at Launch Consulting Group, one of the premier partners in our space. And Zahir Gadiwan, the Head of Partner Solutions and Architecture at Starburst Data. So a little bit about Promethium. So Promethium is a team of folks that are passionate about data ops, big data analytics, and data management. We come from places like Google, EA, Amazon, Informatica, VMware, etc. And our passion is really around trying to solve the problems that a lot of us face, and that is trying to just get answers to data a lot faster. And so, together with a team coupled with great investors, from guys like Zeta Venture Partners and 406 Ventures, we really believe that we need to make a big dent in our space because, quite frankly, we just live in a very different world today, right? And this is what happens when we go talk to customers. Everyone has more data and more different types of data and more locations. And so what happens is that the time it takes to just get answers and get insights from the data keeps taking longer and longer because the amount of data isn't slowing down, the amount of people asking for it isn't slowing down. But it seems as if there is a shortage of the people who have the capabilities to use all the different products for all the different processes. Right, for every 1,000 business users, there's one person who actually has the technical skills to find the data, pull the data, assemble it, and query it. And to make matters worse, in our industry, we've created a different tool for a different data set, a different data type, a different vendor, or a different process. So it just makes the whole ability to get data-driven decisions that much harder because of this. And so what we see all the time when we talk to customers is this is what they have to deal with, right? If they want to be data-driven, if they want to answer questions, well, unfortunately, for most ad hoc analysis, they have to start from the beginning, which is they have to go figure out where the data is. Usually involves doing an ETL to move it to someplace, verify it, assemble it, prep it before they can query it, and then finally they can visualize it. And what we find is that this process can take up to 4 months, which begs the question, how is anyone going to be data-driven if it takes you more than 4 months to just answer one question? And so we at Promethium have a different answer to this, which is, well, what if it doesn't have to be that way, right? What if instead of taking teams of people, right, across different data engineers, different data analysts, business analysts, 4 months to use a bunch of different products that actually don't natively integrate with each other, so you're spending extra consulting dollars and mucking with different parts of the pieces of the answer. What if there was a single solution where one person could actually go from question to answer, fulfilling all the steps in less than 3 minutes, right? And that is what's possible with the combined solution of Promethium, Starburst, and Looker, right? So we're able to, with Promethium, connect to all the different data sources you have, give you very rapid data discovery, right? Millisecond level data discovery for all types of data. You don't have to move data into Promethium. You don't have to move data into another data warehouse. The data stays in place. And then from the data, we're able to get answers. We're able to uncover context using natural language, using AI, and then guide the user to how to assemble that data so that you can answer the question. And that is where then at that point, right, the integration with Starburst comes along, where Starburst, the world's fastest MPP SQL execution engine, gives us the data virtualization capabilities where without moving the data, you can query the data in place instantly. And then the combination of being able to present that view in Looker allows the users, business users in Looker to have access to all that data without having to move the data first. So it's a great way in 3 steps for any analyst or any business person to quickly get answers to the questions. And so this is why, we believe that the data virtualization, is a key enabler, right? And this is why we're so excited that our integration with Starburst allows that continuation of, data discovery assembly to actually being able to query, and then from there being able to push that to Looker so that people can use, deep, sophisticated visualization, powerful visualization, leverage Looker's, award-winning LookML to have much better data modeling capabilities. So, that's the end-to-end integration that allows a very smooth data ops process all within a single platform. And from here, I would like to hand it over to our partners at Starburst to talk a little bit about kind of the power that Starburst brings to actually tie, Promethium and Looker together.
Thank you, Casey. Yeah, thanks. So we at Starburst help our customers achieve a single point of access so our customers can run analytics anywhere. We do this with our own distribution of Presto. It's called Starburst Enterprise Presto. We make it easy to deploy and manage Presto anywhere with the enterprise-grade features our customers need. And we employ the largest team of Presto experts who are dedicated to our customer success, essentially some of you here in the audience. As part of the enterprise offering, we provide obviously 24/7 support to meet customer SLAs, but we simplify the management and deployment of Presto anywhere in any cloud via Kubernetes. This includes the capability to auto-scale Presto clusters to handle query loads and gracefully scale down to avoid unnecessary infrastructure costs. We also provide enterprise-grade security features out of the box, such as Kerberos, Active Directory, LDAP integrations. The Starburst Enterprise distribution gives you the ability to define fine-grained access policies to control who has access to all your data at a table, row, and column level. That becomes very powerful. We also provide high-performance native parallel connectors to enterprise data systems such as Oracle, Teradata, Snowflake, Databricks, Delta, and others to accelerate throughput and reduce query latencies. We at Starburst are constantly innovating and adding enterprise-grade functionality to the Presto distribution, which we build, so that we empower data consumers to be productive by spending more time analyzing data residing in different systems rather than moving it via ETL, as Casey mentioned. Back to you, Casey.
Great, thanks so much, Zahir. And so now we will talk about a use case that we see all the time, right? And so this happens in a lot of organizations. So cross-sell or upsell is a conversation that we hear a lot of times with customers. And typically this happens because customers have different types of data, different data sources in different locations or different vendors, right? So it's not uncommon for us to say, hey, look, I have some CRM data in Salesforce. My enterprise data lake is on Snowflake and it's connected to Looker for my BI and analytics. I got some historical data, it's on-prem and Teradata, and then I also have some online transactions, and that's probably in another data center or another subsidiary in Oracle. And so, and oftentimes, and this happens a lot with companies who may have made acquisitions, for example, or simply started out a product line on a different data platform. And it's just so hard to move the data and get off of that once you get started. So we see this a lot. And what we do today, typically when we talk to customers, the industry has taught us is, well, hey, let's do ETL and let's find the data separately, one silo at a time, and then, manually move the data over, and then, go through this long, painstaking prep process. Once to transform the data and get it to, a consistent format before you can do anything with it. And so, typically this is what we see, which takes a really, really long time. And this is where, we see this a lot. I know, our partners at launch sees this a lot. And so with Promethium, right, our mission is to, make this just a lot simpler, because we do believe in a use case like cross-selling is super important, super valuable. But, what if you can actually do all this? What if you can actually do discovery, prep, query, and then visualize without having to move the data, right? So imagine, the business people being able to ask key questions, being able to query and get the answers, regardless of where the data is, right? Salesforce data is still in Salesforce, Oracle still in Oracle, it's on-prem, Teradata is still there, and being able to leverage all of this capability within one single integrated solution in one single integrated workflow. And the difference is you're going to get your answers in minutes versus months, versus teams of people getting involved, and versus probably missing out on critical time to value, right? Missing out on great ideas, the next best marketing campaign that otherwise would have been expired if it took so long. So that's the power of Promethium plus Starburst plus Looker, right? And so to give you a little bit more detail, right? The architecture is such that Promethium is a SaaS solution, right? It lives in the cloud. However, we have connectors to connect to all different types of data sources, regardless of where they are at. So that way you do not need to move data into Promethium, and that is important. We then have that native integration with Starburst, where from the data that we've discovered and from the data that we've assembled and we've prepped, right, we can natively then use Starburst to create a query, be it a single query or a federated query if you want to do data virtualization across different vendors. And then there's that nice connection between Starburst and Looker, where users can now instantly grab the view and start using LookML and start using Looker to create the visualization. So for here, I'm going to hand it off to our partner at Looker and talk a little bit about kind of the end-to-end and the integrated solution from their perspective. Shohei?
Absolutely. Thanks, Casey. So to put all this together in a kind of a architecture diagram of sorts, what Promethium and Looker allow users to do is to organize, understand, and act on this data across the organization without large-scale data migration projects, as Casey mentioned. And I want to mention that this is first possible because Promethium enables data virtualization and exploring using Starburst Presto. And what that means is that users can query, join, and aggregate data across enterprise data sources without moving any data to a centralized data repository. And in addition, users don't even need to know what data they need to answer questions, right? They don't need to understand the schema or where the data resides, because Promethium's AI query technology will take care of figuring out what data you need and where it resides for you just from the questions that you ask. Lots of great, easy data discovery there. And then Looker builds on these initial explorations for org-wide analytics and data-driven workflows. Now that you know what kinds of data you need and how to get them and how to join things with one another, organizations can use LookML, or the look modeling language, to standardize business logic definitions. And by business logic, I'm talking about things like gross margin, bounce rate, what a marketing qualified lead is, etc., so that end users can ask and answer their own questions reliably with consistent metrics, regardless of their technical skills or database knowledge or knowledge of deep business processes of each organization. And Looker passes SQL queries directly to Promethium and through Presto. So there's, again, that concept of no data movement. Looker does not itself have a data warehouse or an in-memory server. So all the querying goes on at that Presto layer. And once you have these standardized metrics, you can integrate data into workflows, not just dashboards and reports, but things like adjusting ad spend based on performance, or creating a new issue in your bug tracking tool with evidence served right from Looker, maybe even uploading a new customer segment list, and even building custom applications on top of data that's powered by Looker using Looker's API. Next slide, please. In other words, Promethium and Looker complement the data stack and the business or end user experience. Whereas Promethium makes it very easy to find data without moving anything in the first place. No aggregations or consolidation necessary. And Looker makes it easy to access that data consistently with standardized business logic via LookML. Promethium makes it easy to prep data for analysis, while Looker auto-generates consistent SQL so users can get that relevant information and focus on answering questions, not asking someone else to get that data for you, or to having to learn SQL only to find out that you wrote the wrong kind of query. And last but not least, Promethium helps Looker access and model disparate data sources, while Looker lets users understand and actually act on that data right there and then. Next slide, please. And together we create new data experiences for the enterprise. There's only one place to search for all of your data, through Promethium for initial data discovery and in Looker for ongoing self-service analytics for the enterprise. Going from initial data discovery to scaled org-wide analytics is now not only possible, but easy because of Promethium's AI technology combined with Looker's data modeling language. And all of this is possible without the need for lift and shift migration projects before you can even start working with your data. And with that, I'm going to pass the baton over to Nate from Launch to walk through the solution.
Hello, thanks Joey, thanks Casey. So yeah, we're pretty excited today. Our role at Launch is to tie this all together. We're the folks who can come in and help you kind of rationalize these technologies, implement them quickly, and then really start to drive value. And the scenario we're going to walk through today will show you a real world scenario that we see time and time again, where we help break down data silos and really get to the valuable data and answers quickly. So let's talk a little bit about some of the, sorry, go back one. Thanks. So let's talk a little bit about the market drivers. So we know that enterprise data silos are common, and we see a lot across a lot of organizations that getting data from sales, from finance, from marketing, from operations, from all your different groups can be difficult at sometimes. The concept of the data lake has made that easier in some cases, but it's really hard if you don't have a data catalog or tool to help you kind of navigate that. How do you go in and find what you need? So we see this stack as being able to serve a number of different use cases. I think one of the most powerful use cases will be, how do you let data scientists source data from your entire enterprise to build models on top of? A lot of times we see data scientists having to do that data discovery, that data engineering, and that aggregation role, whereas tools like Promethium, Starburst, and Looker, when they're put together, can answer those questions easily and quickly without the data engineers having to write code, without them having to dig through individual S3 buckets, for example, to find what they're looking for. So we see enterprise data silos are commonplace, and that leads, we think, to reduced value. With the proliferation of data lakes and data warehousing, and now the cloud data warehousing, data is becoming, more and more fragmented. Another driver we see is that the first gen MPPs are aging out. So your Teradata's, your Exadatas, the promise of the systems like Snowflake and BigQuery and Redshift and some of the modern cloud data warehouses are that you can scale independently and scale at a cloud level without having to have that big upfront purchase for capacity inside of a on-prem data warehouse that you're not going to use, right? You know, a lot of people price their data warehouse implementations by what's the peak load that I'm going to need at any given time. Well, now in systems like Snowflake, I can say, I'm going to keep one copy of my data, but I'm going to run multiple virtual warehouses. I can scale up and down. And so what's happening now is as these MPPs, you know, age out, everything's migrating to the cloud. And so the pace of migrations is increasing. And so with that, one of the things we've talked about is the ability to get access to the data, whether it's in the cloud, in a cloud data warehouse, or on-prem, or even while the migration is going on, without having to wait. You know, no longer do you have to wait 9 months until the team is done migrating all the data. You can start to access it now. Another driver we can't ignore is the COVID-19, we call it the belt tightening response. You know, in response to the pandemic, we're forced to be more agile and be able to show quicker wins to the business. And so we're looking for technologies that can drive time to insight, time to value, and TCO. And we believe this stack is one that can do that. All right, next slide. So as I said, migrations and consolidations are slow and costly. So how do we provide a quick win? Well, let's add value now. Let's connect disparate data sources, and let's get insights now as opposed to waiting. Next slide. So what we're going to see is we're going to connect data silos. Casey's going to walk through Promethium and show you how to source data, how to join data, and how to publish data that you want. We're going to ask real-world business questions of the data, and then I'm going to walk through with Looker, how do you take that query or that set of data which has been published across your data sets, and how do you visualize that quickly and start to explore the data? Next slide. So here's the scenario we're going to walk through. We're going to have sales data in S3. We're going to have marketing data in Snowflake and finance data in Oracle. So these represent three disparate data sources where you can imagine our scenario is going to be based around campaigns and the marketing campaigns we're running for an e-commerce company. So these marketing campaigns are going to lead us to the actual raw sales data. And so that sales data will lead us into finance where the revenue is recognized via quarterly reporting. So this is something we actually see and is fairly commonplace. You know, a lot of finance data is in Oracle. You know, new marketing automation systems are keying up and having Snowflake behind them. And we know that like transaction level details could be being replicated into S3 from a number of different transaction systems. So that kind of makes up the base of our data that we're going to explore today. Next slide. So like I said, we're modeling this after an e-commerce company. We don't sell our own products, but we market to sellers, kind of like an Amazon marketplace. And those sellers post items in our store and items are bought by end customers. So we're going to watch the data flow and connect the silos between sales, marketing, and finance. Because what's going to happen is marketing wants to know the impact of its campaigns and be able to attribute the sales to the actual campaigns they're running. Finance is going to want to know, well, how much did those campaigns cost to run and what is the value we're getting out of it? And then this provides, I think, the basis for a great view for executives, both at the COO, CMO, and even CEO level. So with that, let's go to the next slide. All right, so Casey's gonna take the mic and Casey's gonna walk through Promethium.
Great. Thanks so much, Nate. So thank you, everyone. So let me just start off by showing you guys, you know, what Nate was talking about. So with Promethium, with a single solution, you're able to connect to a number of different data sources. It's actually very easy for us to connect to different data sources. We have connectors built for just about any type of data source, RDBMS, NoSQL, HDFS, S3-based data sources, or you can even use generic JDBC drivers if you want to connect to SaaS apps like Salesforce.com, etc. So it's in the connection process, very lightweight, very fast. Once we connect, Promethium is only moving metadata. And so you never have to do any type of ETL or any type of data ingestion. So not only is it fast, but it's also very secure as well. And once you have it, it's pretty simple. From a single place, you can actually see and find all your data. So for example, if I wanted to find something, let's say I wanted something to know about seller, right? In the use case that Nate's talking about, instantly I type in seller and I can see that, hey, there's probably 3 tables here across 2 different vendors. It'll find Snowflake and Oracle. It'll tell me it's a table and it'll tell me the location, and you can see that they're actually in different locations that we're finding them in. And what we find here is, from a search perspective, to make it visually easy, is if it's highlighted in green, that means we actually match the name seller somewhere in the name, or in one of the fields, or maybe in the tags that have been created. So there's some tags created here called seller, for example. And so that gives the user a very quick way to actually see what the data is. And if you want an extra layer of verification, Promethium actually does allow the ability to do a data preview, where you can actually look into the data and you can actually see the different row values. And so this is natively, this is actually Presto working behind to give us that fast query. And so the nice thing about the integration is that users don't have to know anything about Starburst. They don't have to know how to configure it, how to scale it, how to manage the cluster. That happens 100% transparently within Promethium. And so you can actually see the actual values here, and you can actually see change the limit. So maybe I want to see 200 rows. You can easily change that. And so this is something very typical that data analysts or data engineers want to do, to kind of give them a much better feel of whether or not this is the data they're looking for. And in addition to the data preview capability, one of the things that our customers find very helpful is being able to actually show you the questions that people have created that uses that particular search term. In this case, this table called closed deals. So you can see that you don't have to be a data engineer to actually understand this. You can read this and say, oh, you're trying to figure out marketing, which marketing channel produces the most revenue, or who are the highest selling reps per channel. And each of these are actual hyperlinks where by clicking on them, you can actually see a link to how the data was assembled. And so here, for example, right, I can pull this up and instantly I can see, a number of different information, right? So I can see, for example, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger here, but, my question was who was the highest performing rep, and instantly, right, someone has already answered this question, right? This rep ID is the highest selling rep by far, doing 80% of the revenue. And in addition to the answer, right, you can also see the tables, right? So here you actually do see that in Nate's example, we were able to pull, finance data from Oracle, sales data from Snowflake, and marketing data from S3 bucket. 3 different sources already joined. Each of these are tables that you can open up. You can search the data very quickly. And Promethium will actually show you not just the data, but actually how it's joined. Users at that point can inspect, or they can actually change the joins if they want to, as well as the different type of join operators. And if they like what they're doing, then this is where you can actually use Promethium to actually generate the SQL statement automatically without doing anything. So here, all this is 100% automatically created, and created in a way where it allows you to publish the view via our friends at Starburst. And this view then becomes instantly viewable, instantly queryable by any third-party BI tool. What's also powerful is the ability to create multiple views per question. So, for example, one common thing we hear a lot is, hey, I went into a meeting, the sales guy had a different number, the marketing guy had a different number, the finance guy had a different number, all from the same question. And so what's powerful about Promethium is that users can easily create multiple views of the same answer, right? So it's very easy for me to just copy the base view, or maybe, I want to copy some work that's already been done, and I can easily just go in here and, customize how I want to put this together. So maybe this is my marketing. And from here, I can then create the different types of ways I want to build this out, with different columns selected, different aggregations, different filters, and then preview it before, I go to, Looker, for example, or publish a Looker. So what's cool with the integration between Starburst is that you're actually able to do a very quick way to not just see how the data is actually assembled, but for example, in this case, we can show exactly how if somebody wanted to put the data together, they can easily just select different things that they want, right? For example, I want to aggregate by price, right? Or I want to aggregate by total value. It's very easy for someone to come in here. It's very, very intuitive for users to simply select this, select the aggregation they want, and build out, the different type of metrics that they want to view. So here, maybe I want to view, business types, right? And I can simply just, put in business type here. And from here, I can get a very, very fast query done without having to, leave the product, go to a separate product and go back and forth. So the idea is, once I see the tables I want, once I see leverage Promethium's AI to automatically assemble it, right, in one place, right, we can leverage Starburst to actually publish the data, to publish the view and create the SQL query, right? So in this case, we'll create the query where you can look at it. And you can start doing different types of visualization if you want to create that, to kind of give you a very quick way of seeing whether or not this is what you want to look at. And if it is, this is where you would then say, let's publish it to something like a Looker, where you can get further see advanced visualization capabilities. So this shows you kind of the end-to-end workflow where someone could go and find the data, or from once questions have been built. The nice part about Promethium is you now have this knowledge base of different questions that you can look at, and each of the questions contain the data that's actually there. It'll contain any type of visualization that's been created to answer it, as well as how it's put together, all in one place. So that way the knowledge is centralized, and as Shohei said earlier, it's standardized. So no matter how you ask the question, you're going to arrive at the same way of the data that's discovered and the same way that the data is actually prepped, and then very quickly being able to validate it by doing fast queries using Starburst. And so at this point, right, let's say, I have something I like and I'm ready to, get further drilled down. I want to build much more powerful and robust dashboards, right? This is where I could click this button called publish, and it will then publish a view in where you can leverage Looker or any other third-party BI tool to do so. So let's say I want to publish this, and I'll this is where we'll do the handoff and go to Looker. So from here, Nate, I'm actually going to pass it over to you and show where you can show users what happens once you have a view published by Promethium.
Great, thanks, Casey. All right, let's get into Looker. Okay, you should be seeing my screen right now. I've just logged into Looker, and it all starts, like Casey said, with the connection. So I'm going to come down here and look at database connections, and all I've done is where you see Promethium. It's using the Hive. It's called the Hive database, but it's speaking the Presto dialect. So I created a connection that will represent the place where I'm going to pick up the view that Casey has published. The next step, though, is to actually go and build on top of that view. So we're gonna go into the development project called Promethium Webinar, and here you're going to start to see LookML. So it looks intimidating, but it's not that hard. So basically, it kind of sets up some of this base level things for you. The whole goal of the model is to show what data views are exposed and how you want to join those different views and together in a semantic model. So Looker provides a really good tool to build that base catalog of measures and dimensions that you want to expose to your business from the underlying data. And there's two kind of actors in the Looker world. There's kind of the Looker developers who are kind of building some of this and doing the joins, and then there's the business. And so the great thing is once a model is built, the business can come in and just consume it and be able to get value out of the model right away. So what I did was, I clicked the plus and I said create view from table. Then I selected the table that corresponds to the view, and so now I have this set of fields that were pulled back from the Presto view. So as you can see, these dimensions, you can see the names, they're kind of ugly. It says Hive _ launch S3 OList marketing qualified lead. So that came through And what I said is, I'm just going to relabel it to campaign ID, right? Because I did exploration inside of Promethium and I saw what the columns, what data was actually in the columns. So it actually, Promethium can help inform your LookML development as you're able to preview the data in real time. So I said, okay, I know what campaign ID is. I know what campaign date is and channel ID. Here are the dimensions I want. One of the cool things is Looker can detect time dimensions and do a time frame breakdown. So it automatically breaks down between raw, time, date, week, month, and quarter, just based off of that detection. Once you have the model you like, one of the cool things about Looker is you can see this is my personal development branch. So Looker automatically has version control built into it. When I save my LookML model, it's in my branch, and then I save it, and then I publish it, and then deploy it to production. So you can have multiple developers working on multiple things that they can preview right now in development mode. You can see I'm in development mode up here at the top. So the ability to have versioning, the ability to have a structured semantic language, the ability to have a workflow, a great workflow to publish, and kind of manage that is one of the values, one of the key values of Looker. So once you publish this model, you can start to explore it. Looker's based on the concept of data exploration. So the ability of users to get in and explore and get their own findings from the data. So I'm going to come down here to the Promethium webinar, and here's where you're going to see kind of the translation of that data into actual dimensions and measures. So let's talk about that scenario, right? The first thing I want to do probably is look at, let me see my channel, my marketing channel, and let's see the revenue that was generated by channel. So I selected the channel name and the revenue, and then I'm going to run this query. So that was fast. Let's go ahead now. See, Looker brings back results first in the table, but as Shohei was saying, the great thing about Looker is it actually does push down optimizations. You can think of Looker as being a great query generation engine. So here's the SQL that it actually generates and is pushing down to Starburst. So this is a big deal. A lot of other tools, rely on extracts or rely on building cubes in memory or rely on other types of scenarios to actually get the kind of performance and speed. Looker says, we want to be a pass-through. We want to be able to aggregate the results based on the results turned from the power of the data warehouse. And we found this to be a really powerful combination. We've been able to spin up giant clusters of 1,024 nodes to analyze petabytes of data. And then all Looker does is return the aggregation results, which is pretty powerful. Looker didn't have to crunch that data itself. So as you can see, I returned back this data set, and let's look at visualizing it. So here you can see right now, I'm going to throw this into a pie graph. So along the top here, you have visualizations. I'm going to turn this into a pie graph. And so you can see right off the top, unknown is my biggest percentage. Well, let's say I want to factor into only the channels I know. So you click on unknown, you can see that search, both organic and paid, were my top two drivers of revenue, for my campaigns. So this kind of allows us to tie the attribution of what we saw in the data and in the marketing campaigns to what was actually purchased. We have, we're able to kind of go all the way across from marketing all the way across to revenue that was recognized. Now what we can do is we can build a dashboard. All right, let's come up here in the gear and we're going to say, save this to a dashboard. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to create a new dashboard. Well, first let's give this a title. Let's call this revenue by channel. And let's add it to a new dashboard. So I'm going to call this the revenue overview. And now my revenue by channel has been added to my dashboard. I'm going to open this in a new window. And so now you can see I've got the beginnings of my dashboard. Dashboards in Looker are pretty cool. They've got some great features in terms of you can add in new looks. So every visualization widget you build is called a look. And dashboards are how you lay out and how you filter looks. The filters are really powerful, and I've used them a lot. You know, so you can declare a filter that says, okay, you know, I want to filter out all the unknowns across my whole dashboard. So I can put in unknown. I can choose the model I want to find the field to work against. I can choose the explore I'm using. I can actually choose the field. So if I wanted to filter the entire dashboard by a field, I can build that out here. And then I can say I want to send that field and that value to a particular tile and have the results filtered by that tile. So that's a pretty cool bit of functionality. All right, so we've got our revenue by channel. Let's now look at revenue by business segment. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is, this is the revenue that's gonna be coming back per different categories of products. So this will be your kind of household and beauty supply, watches, clothing, and that kind of segment. And we wanna see what kind of revenue was driven by those campaigns. So as you can see, there's a lot. This makes a really terrible pie chart. You know, we've got, you know, scroll, scroll, scroll. So what we're gonna do now is we're going to turn this into a bar chart. So let's make a bar chart and let's say, okay, I only wanna see the top 10. Oh, where'd my data panel go? I only wanna see the top 10. So now it's gonna filter down that set and filter down to the top 10 segments that drove revenue. So let's take this and save it to our dashboard. Oh, new tile has been added to the revenue overview. All right, let's hit refresh. And it's called new tile because I forgot to name it. Let's go in here and edit. Hit the edit button. Let's call this revenue by segment. And hit save. I want to line it up to be pixel perfect. All right, let's go back to my visualizations. Okay, so now that I've done revenue by segment, I want to look at the deals that were won quarter over quarter. So I'm going to come down here in the deals won date, and this is the date that Looker automatically segmented by the different subdimension breakdown based on just detecting it was a date value, which is pretty awesome. So I'm going to come in here and do deals won per quarter, and then let's look at the revenue. All right, so this doesn't really look that great in a bar chart, so let's line it up as a line graph. Okay, so you can see here in Q4 of 2017, you know, my revenue is just starting to pick up from the campaigns that were associated with it. And so the important thing to realize is that because we join this data together, we're only looking at revenue from the lens of revenue that was driven by campaigns because of the joins we set up in Promethium, which is really cool. So we've pulled a really targeted snapshot of the data. And we can see that our campaign started in Q4 of 2017. It could have been promos around Christmas, but our revenue peaked in Q1. So all the campaigns we run, maybe our after Christmas specials, led to a big spike in Q1 sales. And then our marketing efforts might have tapered off throughout the year, and probably maybe this trend picks back up in Q4 of the next year. So I've got this visualization, and now I can do some cool things when I look at actually plotting the values. So let's look at the series. Let's look at the actual values. Let's look at the value labels. So here I can see the actual numbers now that are associated with those values. And I also want to change the points. I want to change the point style. Right now, there's no points. I'm going to add points. So you can see these little dots now appear, and I like them to be outlined. So Looker has a lot of great options when it comes to actually, you know, laying out your visualizations as well. Also, I like the area. Let's shade it. So I'm going to shade it. So now it's an area graph. All right, let's save this to our dashboard. Actually, let's save it as a tile again. Let's call the tile revenue by date. to our revenue dashboard. Let's go back and refresh our dashboard. I'm going to edit it, make sure it's perfect. Done editing. And so now you can see we've got revenue by channel, revenue by segment, and revenue by date. And these are the different lenses by which, you know, different people in the business can look at this. Show me the revenue that came in from the marketing channel. Show me the revenue that was driven in a particular category, and show me when the revenue was recognized. So this is a quick view of Looker. Looker has a tremendous amount of power that we're just starting to exploit as well. We've built some really interesting things with Looker, things like human-in-the-loop curation. Looker has the ability through the Action Hub to actually take action on data you see in Looker. For one case we built, we actually had a comparison engine we built in Looker that compared values that were in a contract in a PDF to values that were actually in the database. So you could visually spot different inconsistencies. And then what you could do is you could say, edit, and you can click on the edit button. We built the action in, and it pulled up that data in a form. And what we did there was we were able to like edit side by side the different values and then click save. And that action, when we click save, posted to a API in AWS and in Lambda that actually wrote back to the database. We were able to do an entire human-in-the-loop curation cycle inside of Looker, just building off of the Looker functionality. You know, I think of Looker more as a data platform, given its kind of rich API and action-driven focus. It's a lot more than just a BI and data discovery tool. It can actually start to, you can actually start to action directly on your data. So that's what I'm going to show for the Looker part. Let's get back to kind of a holistic thing about what we've seen today. Casey.
Yeah, you know, and before you do that, Nate, I just want to add one more thing, and that is once you've done and created all those great views and those dashboards in Looker, you can actually link them back into Promethium. So then next time someone asks that question and looks for any data associated with that question, they could get links right into Looker. And so it makes that process just that much more end-to-end and that much more integrated. And so I think that's something that's really important, because we hear from a lot of our customers, right? They just don't want to deal with how disjointed things are. And so again, the whole key of this is sort of the end-to-end nature, and the fact that these are not just products that they don't just work together, but you actually have a way to tie them together. So that way, at any given point in time, someone looks for something, in Promethium looks for data, they already know, hey, there's a Looker dashboard associated with it. Here's a link to the query, et cetera. So that's pretty powerful. And so we wanted to be able to make sure people see that there is this end-to-end capability that we have, right, with Promethium, Starburst, and Looker. And again, the beautiful thing is there is no additional professional services that you need to spend to cobble up a whole bunch of different things. The Starburst integration, like we said, is already bundled into Promethium. So the minute you want to execute a query, it's already there. And then the connection between a published Starburst view, which done by Promethium, automatically creates and shows up as a view in Looker. And then all the fantastic stuff that Nate actually has created also allows you to link that back into Promethium. So it becomes a much richer part of the data discovery. Right? So, you know, this is what we wanted to show everyone today, is the power of leveraging kind of this automation and this integration of these three fantastic solutions, so that truly this end-to-end process, you know, no longer takes 4 months with, you know, a dozen different tools. Business users no longer need to be frustrated with, you know, the answer that they're given, which is you have to wait for the data. This actually now can be, you know, on demand, really, really fast. And, you know, we're so excited to bring this solution to the market, you know, with great partners such as Starburst and Looker. It's something we see a lot of demand for. And so, you know, wanted to thank everyone for, you know, listening to this webinar and letting us share what we share. And I'll stop here and see if there are any questions.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to say is, while you know, as a professional services company, while you don't need the extensive amount of professional services, what we're charged to do in this value prop is accelerate this, right? So we can come in being an expert in these tools and kind of help you integrate them really quickly into your environment. So, you know, while your professional services, your dependence on a professional service firm for migrations has been lessened, you know, that's where we provide value as Launch, is being able to come in and quickly roll these out, help integrate them into your environment, and help you start driving value from day one. And with that, like Casey said, we'd love to open it up to some questions. And so please just put your questions in the chat and we'll start to answer them one by one. I see the first question from Alejandro Alvarez is, what kind of optimizations can you do in Promethium to improve the queries? Casey?
Yeah, good question. So there's a bunch of optimizations we can do in Promethium to improve the queries. So again, this is leveraging, you know, the partnership with Starburst. So one of the things that Promethium does is, you know, before we actually publish the view, is we will specifically identify with our directions, right? That specific table, that specific column, that specific join, and then allow you to further define, you know, the filters and the group bys and the aggregations, so that way you don't have to, you know, move any, you know, unnecessary data over. And then leveraging the power of Starburst, where you do have the ability to do push down queries and data virtualization. So that way, you know, you're pushing down as much as possible to the source before you do the aggregation in memory. And then, you know, with Starburst, you also have caching turned on as well. So that way, things, you know, queries actually do also get faster and faster. So these are the type of optimizations that you can do to improve queries.
Are there any more questions we can answer? Please feel free to put a question in the chat window. We'd love to be able to answer some more questions. One of the things I'd like to say, though, is if you want to get started, please reach out to Launch. Because we're an expert in these technologies, we can help be your kind of concierge to implement them. So we'd love to be that provider who can kind of help you tie these together and implement them quickly and get value. So we have some time. We have a few more minutes for one or two more questions. Anyone? All right. On behalf of the partners, I'd like to thank everyone for attending today. I'd also like to thank our group of panelists. I'd like to thank Shoei, Zahir, and Casey for really putting together this and kind of partnering with us all to kind of bring this together. You know, a lot of times it's rare to see 3 or 4 different people on a single webinar kind of tying things together, but I think we made a pretty compelling case. And as an integrator, I'm really excited because one of the things I want to do is drive value and time to insight. And this approach really knocks down those silos. And we've seen this happen in the wild and seen the value delivered. So, you know, we're excited. We'd love to answer questions and would love you to reach out to Launch or reach out individually to Promethium, Starburst, or Looker.
Thank you, everybody. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for attending.
Thank you.